All right, what is up, everybody? Ted here with Bodies and Wicks. Welcome here to the Sunday version of whatever is going on this weekend. Decided to talk about crypto, about what's going on, about the new highs in Bitcoin. What should we expect out of that? Also, Ethereum. What's been going on with that? Where should we expect it to land? As well as some other cryptos as well. Primarily talking about cryptos that are going to be on the MT4 platform. And the reason I say MT4 platform is because that is where I will be starting my signal service. And I will be using primarily everything that is on Hugo's Way. And just that's what I use. It has a lot of crypto on it. You can make a pretty decent amount with a very, very small account with crypto, trading crypto on that, rather than going to Kraken or Gate.io or doing that, which you can do so as well. You can take the signals and go there and enter in those kind of arenas. I just think it's a lot simpler and a lot more effective to go the MetaTrader 4 route. So that's why I decided I thought it'd be best to do something like that, and I'll be doing it from a smart money perspective now. As you can see, I'm all dressed up in my Sunday's best. And what I mean by smart money perspective, I mean by going against the retail theory. If you've never watched my channel before and you're a first timer here, what I mean by smart money theory is that there are the big guys, the big institutions, who basically hold the little guy down. They have the ability to control the market, manipulate it. It's pretty much that simple. There's ways that you can see through that. And there's ways that you can see exactly kind of what they're doing and what they're waiting for. And that's what I've been studying recently. Last year, most of my trades, I wiped out so much money, losing money just by, accepting the retail doctrine that this is support, this is resistance, this is what's going to happen when it comes here, sell here, buy here, feeding into the channels that would promise you couple thousand pips. And I fed into those channels, and what I found out was that they wouldn't give you a heads up or anything like that. They would just be like, buy now, and by the time you would feed it by now, your movement was already so much away that it was like, you could have scalped it and made something, and then at the end of the week they're like, we made 6,000 pips or something like that, when in all actuality, if you're a person actually trading underneath that, you probably wouldn't have made more than a couple hundred, something like that. So I want to set up something different. I want to try to give people a heads up about what I'm going to be trading, the reason I'm going to be trading it, and things like that. That way people are expecting a trade, and I'm not just going to throw something random out there for people to trade. So it's saying YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain a smooth stream. It looks like it's doing fairly well, though. It doesn't look like it's are you doing a stream such as viewers will experience buffering. Stream status poor. Okay, so you may get some latency issues, which I'd hopefully have fixed in the editing content of this. So hopefully the low latency will help out. Yeah, I'll just get right to it. Again, if you are in favor of these kind of things, of smart money, trying to go against the institutions, trying to figure out where they're going to be trading, that way you can trade along with them instead of being the one that's going to get caught in those situations, losing money, and they're going to be taking the money from you, right? Because they have the power, they have the money to do it. What I'd like you to do me a huge favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It only helps, you know, boost my viewership. It gets the word out there to people that don't know much about these kind of things. Again, this was an idea that was primarily in the Forex realm, right? And it has been, I am bringing it over into the crypto realm. And so far, I don't know anybody that's doing that. And so far, it's working. So it's been proven to me so far that it's been working. I'm using it in conjunction with indices, with Forex. I'm using all these ideas, same ideas, no matter what they are, in conjunction with all the different, not aspects, but what's what I'm looking for? You know, the different. God, it starts with an E, and I can't even think of it. All the different types of you know, things you can trade, I guess you could say, whether it be indices, crypto, Forex, even if you want to look at futures, you know, and go into commodities, or I mean, if you want to look at bonds and go into, you know, that kind of thing, which I'm not too familiar with bonds, so you know, that's something I probably won't be talking about. I need to educate myself more in that. But you know, the things that I am good at, you know, why fix something that's broken? So I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing with crypto and Forex and indices. So that being said, first thing I want to do is, first of all, if you haven't yet, what I would like you to do is go ahead and head over to Twitter and follow me on at Bodies and Wicks, or Bodies X Wicks. You know, my trading view is connected to my my Bodies X Wicks account. Anytime I put an idea out on trading view, you can see that. Let me see if I can find one here. Here we go. Yeah, here's one where I put SPX long now, and that was from TradingView. Ended up with 22 handles on XPX, which is a 20 pip win if you were trading that as a CFD. You know, I also give updates, you know, on these trades. Same thing with GBP USD. I try to make sure I don't lose these trades. One of them was GBP JPY, but it ended up saying GBP USD on accident, which was this one here, GBP JP USD long, and it ended up actually being a GBP JPY chart. But we ended up doing pretty good in that one. Nas called along on that one. That one absolutely killed. Great trade on that one. And other ones, this Ethereum one was, man, if you held on to this one, you won the jackpot. And the same thing with the Bitcoin one. I called Bitcoin and Ethereum both at the, I would say at the almost the exact perfect time that you could have called, you know, these trades. Just because it seemed like it was the right area to do it, right area to get into the trade. And it's loading right now, and as soon as it gets done loading, I can hit play and it'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. But of course it would do this to me right now. So as you can see, I had this, I probably should have put the, you know, the grid a little bit further over, but whatever. You can see that my stop loss was down here. I ended up moving it up later, but we'll get into that. But yeah, if you hit play from that point, from where I say, hey, enter here, what did it do? It caused the double bottom probably at the same exact spot, and then boom, flew up. And then if you hit play again, what did it do? It came back down a little bit, but still, either way, you made a profit off of this if you know, were in this trade, just from following my Twitter. And if we go back to this one, I want to do the NASDAQ ended up being over 200 pips. Trade that I called that was a long now. SPX ended up being it says 472, but I feel like I feel like the NASDAQ was more like 2000 and this one was 472. Let's see here. This one was, I'm not for sure what this one was. I think SPX call. I'm trying to find the Bitcoin call that I made, and maybe it just didn't post for some reason, or maybe I passed it. I'm not for sure. But if you go to my trading view, which is at Tedzily, is where you can find my ideas, right? And we go to as long GBP, USD, SPX, ETH, BTC. Here we go. This is when I did the YouTube video in the morning, and I called when to enter, and I said it's still not too late to enter, because we were just now getting to take profit 1, and you still had plenty of time left to get to take profit 2, and even higher than that. So if we hit play on this, it falls down a little bit, but eventually it gets all the way up again into, of course, the new high. So again, I called that almost, I mean, I hate to toot my own horn, but geez, right at that moment is when I called it, and I called it live on YouTube, and it ended up being the best trade that I had. I ended up taking most of my you see here how I did this, because it was a little wonky. So I say I took 50% at this point, right at the first high, just so I had a good enough in my bag, and also put my stop loss at even 10% off, a little bit higher, just so we could grab a little bit more. So we had 40% left. All right, and then I said I wasn't for sure since it was falling backwards, so I took another 20%. So we had 30% left, or maybe it was 40%. Oh yeah, I think 40%, leaving 30% left in case if it hits the run. So yeah, so it was 30% left that I left open, and you see here, and I just left it open. As you can see, I held out for the 60K and closed it out then. So that 30% left in my trade was closed out at the $60,000 mark. Or yeah, it was right around whatever it got up to this high, and it started falling back down, and I was like, all right, I'll close it out there. So that being said, let's just go ahead and jump into Bitcoin, and let's see what's going on. Right, I know that's what a lot of people are thinking. Hey, what's going on with Bitcoin? Should we be worried for a pullback? Should we be looking at another big blast off bull run? What should we be looking at as far as Bitcoin is concerned? So what I did is I'm going to go to a daily chart here really quick, right? And the way I do this is I look at in between candle and candle as a gap. That's just the way I've done it. So, and I'll probably have to do that with this one since this is a new day. So I am looking at this. I accidentally had to click the wrong button. I probably should restart on my computer because it's acting really, really slow. And there we go. Let's copy this. I'm very, very about making sure my lines are completely straight. So I always copy and paste the price bars. So this is the low of the day for today. As you can see, it's bounced up from there. And you would be looking at in the previous day, probably about this yellow line here. We can probably push that forward. And in time, even though this is days in advance, doesn't matter. It still could take some time for this to pull back into that area, right? And if it does, then we know what to possibly expect. It just depends on the momentum that's going to be happening that day. So whenever these things happen, I look at this, see this huge green candle, then a pullback, and then there's this this green area right here, right? It's kind of behind my head and you can't see it. Here, let me actually move this stuff out of the way because we really don't need it right now. I kind of use this as a gap. I think of this as a gap because if you think about it, even though it's a day, if we look into the 1 minute of this, we don't know if it has skipped over price or not. So it still could be coming back in and trying to fill in gaps of, you know, 1 minute, 5 minutes, things like that, where it just completely skyrocketed up and, you know, it skipped over price. So once you do it daily, then you just kind of start digging in lower, right? So now that we've done the daily, right, now we got the 4 hour. So 4 hour here, as you can see, from candle to candle, from here to here, right? It didn't get below that candle, so I'm still thinking that Bitcoin could still have its day to get a little bit lower. As you can see, this candle right here, right, this candle right here, it reaches for both sides, to make sure that price is taken care of. So this tells me that it's good for both ends. So if price were to get a little bit lower, I would not have any problem putting in a long at a certain point. And I'm looking at this specific green line that I put in here, and that's because that is the middle point from this candle here and this candle here. It has to do with the middle point. If it gets to the middle point, what you usually see is a skyrocket, and it's also right near the previous all-time high. So it could be using that as kind of a support level. Now, what is that level? That level is 58,467, right? So 58,467, 58,500, something like that is what you'd be looking at. Look around that area. I'm not going to put it along just yet, just because you know, Bitcoin just made its high. It's pulling back. It looks like it could be trying to go forward, but again, it could also be coming forward. Again, we'll have to look at the 1 hour, right, and see what's going on with the 1 hour to see what it could be doing. So again, as you can see, it's coming up, it's hitting this green. I wouldn't even call this a bearish order block because there's such a big pin bar on it, right? So this whole area is just kind of effed, I guess you could say. There's really no structure to it. It really doesn't know what it wants to do. I can tell you what it does want to do. What it wants to do is, now this talk of the stimulus check that's coming out and all this stuff, it wants to get a little bit lower to entice people that are going to be getting the stimulus checks to start buying, right? That's what it wants to do. And then once it sees people start buying, people are going to start getting FOMO, and they're going to start buying and buying and buying, and it may get to a new high. It may very well get to a new high. And then at that point, the people with all the money, you know, the miners and all that stuff, they are just going to dump everything they have, and they're going to make this thing fall, right? They're going to make it fall. And I don't want to say a specific level because I'm not 100% sure, but I would guess, you know, at the very minimum, probably something like this, probably around 58, you know, 50, what is this level here? 57,500, 57,600. That would be on the good side. That would be on the good side, as if it was going to just hit this and then continue on. My fear is that it may try to get a little bit lower into what I have, this big purple box. I have this big purple box is because this is basically a breaker area, right? When I mean a breaker area, it means that there is a low right here, right, that came in at around 47,100. Boom, it came up, it made a high right around 52,000, almost 700, and then it dropped again, and then it dropped below that original low of that 47,000, pretty much even. It got down to about what is this, 56,237, got down around there. And I remember actually, whenever this happened, I actually got into this trade right around this area because I saw it was happening. And it hit basically the mean threshold of the order block, meaning these down candles right here, right? These down candles are where the big wigs decided to push down. I don't know where my chart just went. It just decided to go off the grid. I guess it didn't like that if I was talking about it, so it just decided to not have a chart. So I'm going to reload this really quickly. So give me a minute while this thing comes back up, while I take a sip of coffee. And then after that, we'll talk about Ethereum and Litecoin. I think Litecoin is going to have some good things happening to it. Mana, if you've been paying attention to some of the altcoins, Mana has had a phenomenal showing. I got into Mana when it was about 20 cents, and it jumped up to over $1. So my portfolio was looking really good, and it was primarily because of Mana. There we go. Okay, it's starting to slowly come back. Not for sure what's going on here with it. It's still trying to load, it looks like. I have no idea what's going on. Anyways, I don't know if you noticed, but in the upper right hand corner, I did add a new feature to my I guess you could say my outline, or my I don't know what you would call this thing, but I did add a new feature letting you know the song information that's on. So I use Epidemic Sounds, and I figured out a way to get the song information on it. It may not be the best quality right now. I'm still trying to work on it. Yeah, it's definitely not the best. Let me see if I can work on that while the why isn't this Bitcoin? I just don't understand. Why isn't Bitcoin coming up? Let me do something really quick. DC USD, and let's go Coinbase. Close this out. BTC USD Coinbase. And this stuff is taking forever. You know what? Maybe I just want to close down my Twitter. Also, if you have Mines is also a great place for people. It's like Facebook, but way better. Because it pays you for being a content creator no matter what. It pays you in Ether. So it's actually a really cool concept. I love Mines. So if you have Mines, I'm at Tedzily, or you can find me under Bodies and Wicks. Let you know, hey, I was going live today. So if you don't have Mines, sign up for Mines. A great channel. They have an open source code, so they don't hide the code. They don't try to show you that, you know, that your data is being sold or anything like that. They're not trying to target ads towards you or anything like that. One of the guys who started it, his name's Ian Crossland. Very cool dude. And so he has this thing called Free the Code. So, you know, this thing is open code, open sourced. So I love Mines. It's a great thing. It's gotten me off of Facebook, thank God. And so if you can sign up for Mines, it would be a great thing for you to do. And what you just saw was Canva. That's how I use my thumbnails. I'm my own thumbnail maker. Sorry if they look generic and weird, but you know, whenever you're a one person show, you got to try to do what you can with what you got, you know. All right, now let's see if this is actually going to come up with this Bitcoin stuff. Jeez, I didn't think it'd be so hard for Bitcoin to show up on a chart. Maybe because I have a lot of charts pulled up. I don't know. Acting ridiculous right now. I just want to show Bitcoin on a chart. Is it really that difficult? It was doing it, and then all of a sudden it just decided to stop. Here we go again. It's showing my markings. But it is not showing. This is really weird. Why is it? Okay, there must be something going on with all right, so I don't know, maybe something needs to be fixed with that. Let's head on over to Ethereum. Ethereum is actually showing, so we'll see how long that lasts. But over here I have a list that says crypto training, and this is all of the cryptos that can be traded on MT4 with Hugo's Way, right? So those are the cryptos that can be traded on MT4 with Hugo's Way, which is a lot. You got Bitcoin, Ethereum, you have Ripple, Litecoin, Zcash, Monero, Dash, IOTA, EOS, and Neo, which is quite a few. So it has Bitcoin Cash on there, but it was grayed out. I don't really understand why it was grayed out. But again, you know, whatever I called my trade the other day for this, it was right around in this area, right, is where I entered. Probably, I think it was a little bit above it. I think it was like right in here. It may have, if not, it may have been right up in here. And then, sure enough, it took off. So, question is what is going to happen to Ethereum now? I mean, now we're you know, Ethereum is getting close to all-time highs again. You know, it's before its all-time high was over 2,000. If we look at the 4-hour chart, didn't really mean to make it that low. If we look at the 4-hour chart, you know, you can see it was somewhere around 2038. Most recent run we got to was about 1943. So it was about $100 off, which isn't that bad. And I think the reason why it got to that point and turned around, again, it has to do with those gaps I was talking about, right? So if we take this gap, that was this gap right here, right? And this is a 4-hour gap. Take this 4-hour gap, we extend this gap in time. Boom, what does it do? It enters the gap and turns around and goes the other way, right? So it just depends on which side of the gap it's on. So that's how you know where to exit sometimes, right? That's how you know where to exit some of these trades. Generally, it's going to try, eventually it's going to try to fill this gap, right? It hasn't yet, but and more than likely it's going to try to fill this gap, right? So just keep that in mind. But now that it's on, oops, that shouldn't have been like that. Took the old, it didn't actually copy what I had. Put it there. There we go. All right, so, and of course you have this big green candle right here. So what is it going to do? It's going to fall back into this big green candle area and fill in partially some of the gaps that it has done before it starts moving on forward. It could be a good time to actually get into this trade. I'm not 100% certain. I would feel, you know what, let me do a real quick analysis of this. You know, this may be one of those things where I keep going all day and I may have a couple different videos. Who knows? We'll see. But if I do a Fibonacci, right, from this candle to this candle, what I would be looking at, especially for it to, you know, take off like a freight train, or take off like a tomahawk, or whatever word you want to use, 1823.04 is where I would be looking, and around that area, 23.04. And that is a 4-hour. Okay, and so I'll make a little marker, make a little text here, and say this is, you know, the middle gap. So it doesn't have to hit this, but you know, if it does, right, it got close to it, you know, got close to it, and that's what could possibly be. But then again, it's also starting to fall as well. But if you really want to look at something, right, two things. For one, it could be wanting to fill this gap, which is going to be down here. Yeah, it looks like those were perfect. I can't believe I did that. And your second is going to be possibly one of these two red candles, possibly this red candle here. This red candle here, because it was the last down push before it made this huge move up. So there is a order block sitting right in here. And actually, I want to zone in on this. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of this. Let's see where this is at. Here we go. 2 down candles. Boom, right there. That's what I would be looking at personally. And the reason, another big reason why I would be looking at this personally, as an area to make a good entry. Look at that. Nailed it perfect again. Getting better at this. We make this a different color, text green, and we're gonna say this is a +1 hour order block, if I could spell hour correctly. Right, and oh, meant to change the actual thing of this. There we go. Okay, so one of the reasons I think this would be a good reason to enter here is because if it fell all the way down to here, again, you have these two candles driving down, and then boom, it just goes up after that. You also have this candle here, right? So this little red candle, that does drive price down a little bit, and that's the last one before the huge one. So it could be this one right here. And what I want to do is do a smaller, not really smaller, but make like kind of like a dotted line on top of this, on top of this right here. So let's do a little dotted line here, and next. And this is also a plus OB 1 hour. And I don't know if you guys know how to organize like all your different, notes and things like that. But anytime you make a note, it shows up in the object tree. So if you right click and you go to object tree, everything that you ever put in as far as like, a trend line or a path or anything like that, it's all in here. And so what you can do is you can go to that one and you can name it, and you can say, hey, this was a plus OB 1 hour, and you can, what I usually do is I put the date. So the date was 3/13, 3/13 is when it started. So I would put the date of 3/13. And then what you can do is you can organize them by creating a group of drawings, right? And then going to that group of drawings, and then I would say this is my 1 hour drawing, right? And these are my 1 hour drawings. and that way you can kind of go in between 4-hour, 1-hour daily, mix and match, do what you got to do. I haven't made one for, you know, daily separators and things like that. That way, in case you go to a weekly, you don't have a bunch of, you know, daily separators sitting on a weekly chart, things like that. So I won't spend up too much time doing this, but I do just want to, you know, outline these really quick. Those plus OB hourly. This is also 313. All right, and then this one is the gap bottom, or what could also be known as the discount price. So also gap discount. And then you have this one, which would be the middle gap. And that had to do with the 4-hour chart, right? And I should also make a note of this as well. This was also part of the 4-hour chart, if it would let me do it. Now I have two create a drawing to do, and then we could call this group 4-hour notes. And we also had an hourly. Oh, we already had the hourly, never mind. So move this back up here, and 4-hour notes, 4-hour notes. And these all work together, you know. So once you do that, and then you start, you know, honing in, and now that we've kind of got it honed in on this area, right, to where this could possibly be the area to where, if you know, we know Ethereum's not going to just stop abruptly and then turn around. It's going to take a reason, and we're trying to outline these reasons as to why it would just turn around. So we have found a couple different reasons, and now that we have found a couple different reasons, let's dig in a little bit deeper and see if we can find something a little bit more substantial, right? So now that we have the halfway mid gap, right? So if we were to draw a 15 minute gap proposal over to here, as you can see, it's already came into this 15-minute gap proposal and filled in this 15-minute gap proposal as well. So that one's already filled in. So now your next one is going to be this one, which is also included in the middle gap. So it wouldn't surprise me if this would be a good place for it to turn around. Then you also have this 15-minute gap proposal here between this candle and this candle. Go across again, could hit the bottom. And again, you have this green line that I showed you right here, which could also be, one of those bearish order blocks that it could hit, because it was the top of it before it drove down, before it made a huge pump up, right? So, and then this one was the one that pushed it down before the big pump up, and that one was going by the hourly. So even though if you look at it from a 15-minute perspective, it does push down really hard, but it kind of takes a while to get up there, which makes me think that this may not be the case, because they would have time to actually release their sell. I mean, they dropped a lot of money, right? They leverage traded it down. They could close out that leverage trade by the time it got to this point here, and then also buy up as much as they could and not have to worry about this, and then coming all the way back down to here before releasing that trade. They could still be holding on to that trade, because if they did, they still have the leverage against it, right? And so if that's the case, that leverage against it could be the factor that's making it push it back down to it, if they're holding on to that trade. So that's what I look at whenever I look at the institutional order flow of these gangsters, I should say. When I say gangsters, I mean you know, white people like me gangsters, you know, the people with the ties and the suits and, you know, those type of gangsters. Those are the people that we're looking at. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think of some other things we could possibly look at. You do have this breaker. Oh, this is actually very, very interesting here. Let me get out of this. Let me go to the hour and see if we have a breaker potential. Yeah, we kind of do. Your last, okay, so whenever you see this, well, all right, so you have a low, right? You have a low, you have a high, then you have a lower low, right? Whenever you see that, generally the high ends up being a potential for a breaker. We have traded, and of course it traded way above it, right? Traded way above it. So now what I want to do is highlight this as in same, well, same thing here too. Here, here, here. This could also be one as well, which would be interesting, because if that's the case, we are at the very bottom of that breaker, which is why maybe it turned around. So you had that breaker, right? And then you also had this breaker, right? So the overlap of those breakers is where it actually turned around. So not gonna lie, Ethereum might actually turn around and go back this way. But if it doesn't, it could again come back down to the bottom of this breaker. But, you know, and the same thing with this one though. But this one is also about the same exact height and area of the previous one. Almost the same exactly. Not much difference there. So you had one potential, again, you had a low, a high, a lower low, low, a high, a lower low, and then you had a low, a high. I mean, it was a little bit more of a lower low. It wasn't too much, but it was probably enough to be considered a breaker. But these are definitely breakers, so I would say since these are trading above this, now it's at that point, it hit to the bottom of that breaker cycle where it actually could be moving upwards. So you could possibly see this moving upwards now. And just to see, make sure I am in my I did actually start putting money in my trading account again instead of just doing actual trades or doing demo trades. But I'm still doing demo trades. Not a bad idea to always do demo trades until you can find consistency. Unless you know for a fact that you're gonna, like the ones, you know, the ones I did the other day, those were all real trades. And so I kind of, you know, been taking a little bit of a break this weekend because I want things to cool down. I want to make sure I'm getting the right information in the right time to enter these trades. So just as a practice and to see if this is actually going to happen, what I did is I just placed a trade on my demo account, on my demo account on Ethereum as a long to see if this is going to have any kind of impact. And I'm looking at this, and you know, I'm looking at these. There's really no gap implications here. There is here and here. And the thing is that this came up into this gap, which pushed it down. But then again, that gap was already above the breaker, so it pushed it down into the breaker. It gets down to the bottom of the breaker, and now it's pushing back up. So that's what's going to make this interesting. So I want to watch this area right here. I want to watch this area right here. This is the top of it, right? sure the coordinates are correct. And thank you everybody for watching so far. And you obviously you're getting some kind of hopefully getting some kind of education out of this. Right, there we go. So now what I want to do is that in smart money you cut through candles, because everything is done by an algorithm, right? It's not supply and demand, right? To where, oh, you know, the candle's already been there, you know, it's you can't reuse it. No, you can reuse things over and over and over again, because it's an algorithm. The computer remembers these places, these specific areas, you know. So supply and demand is not a thing in my world. It just really isn't. So so this is actually cool. I'm glad I actually took a look at this and was actually able to spot that, you know, these possible breakers here that could be pushing up, right? And if that's the case, I mean, it may not be a whole lot, but if, you know, if I were to get into here and I got up to here, you know, it's 1857 to 1879, you know, and I put in a 0.03, that's you know, that's $63 right there, just on a short scalp. And but if I wanted to take, you know, a 0.01 off of that, you know, make $21 and then move my stop loss to break even, you know, to see if it's going to continue moving forward, and, you know, we can make more than that, and then, you know, we could just see how it goes. Or I could just, you know, say, hey, I like the trade where I'm at, I'm going to make 63 bucks. You know, to me, that's half my day's salary, to be 100% honest. So I can make $63 in one trade. I don't see, you know, a problem with doing it. Now the question is okay, now that we're in the trade, where's the stop loss, right? That is a good question. That is a really good question. Especially now that we've figured out, you know, that we are in this area of you know, whatever it is, I guess you could say. To play it safe, I would go just a little bit below this middle gap, right? If it ends up getting below the middle gap, okay, we get knocked out, we look for another entry, right? Because there is going to be another entry in this area. I can almost guarantee it. I can't 100% guarantee it, but it just seems like the most logical explanation. The only thing that does scare me, right, is this area kind of right through here. It doesn't necessarily scare me, because if you look to, if we were to, you know, draw out what I have been drawing out, no, that wasn't supposed to do that, but that's okay. And go back to that. Oh, come on, magnet. All right, and then let's make sure these coordinates, oh, completely correct. All right, awesome. So and this is a 1 hour chart, right? So what I would be looking at, and I'll do another one for this one right here. And let me make sure this got attached to that right there. All right, make sure the coordinates are correct. Oh, didn't work. Didn't work. There we go. All right, so as you can see, this reached down into here and almost completely filled this gap, which it came back down to it, hit the gap again, and then took off. So, and as you can see, it did it again. It fell back down, almost completely closed this gap, and then boom, took off. So, the only thing is that I'm worried about all of this through here, right? It didn't completely come down and not even, you know, hit this as, you know, part of, as, you know, filling that gap. So if I were to this and then move this over here, oops, didn't mean to do that. Oh yeah, right on the dot. Right. You know, I would probably be looking for it to hit that area, but that would be way in the future. Again, what price is that? That's 15.97. I don't see it getting back down to 15.97 anytime soon. But if it does, look for that area. You know, this is one of those areas that you could look for and be like, hey, it didn't completely fill in, you know, these gaps that, you know, it could have filled in. So therefore price could be looking to come back and you know, treat this as a gap and that it needs to fill in. But as currently in the state of what is going on, let me get rid of these two other lines. I use those as kind of whenever I do diagonal lines, which I'm not a fan of trend lines or anything like that. The primary reason I use them is to see who is going to bite on them. That way that when they push through them, they get suckered in on that and they lose out on the liquidity, right? And funny, look at this. This is from a video from a couple days ago. I was like, look at these equal highs, right? I said, look what's going to happen. You know, price is going to come up. It's going to go above it. It's going to pull back below it. It's going to, and what did it do? It went above it, it pulled down, went above it, it pulled down, went above it, you know, pulled down. So it's just funny whenever you see that, whenever you look at equal highs and you say, hey, look at this. This is probably what's going to happen. And it does happen. So I find that to be quite hilarious. Just to be like, hey, I told you so. But I hate to be that guy, but hey, I told you so. Either way, it looks like, well, I'm coming up on an hour, so I'm hoping it doesn't kick me off soon. If it does, I will definitely tweet out another link, or I don't know how you guys found me in the first place, but I'll try to get another link soon. But I think what we got going on here with this Ethereum thing is I think it probably could be, let's get down to the 5-minute of it. Let's really get down into this, right? As you can see, with those little gaps that came up into the gap, pushed it down, came back up into the gap, pushed it down. But now we're at the bottom of that breaker, boom, pushed it back up. So now I'm waiting to see what happens when it comes back up into this gap. I want to see, first I want to see if it's going to look, it kind of made equal highs here. I want to see if it's going to break that. I'll probably change the color of this, of course. Come on now. And I'm going to dash that. All right, so made equal highs here. I want to see whenever this does come back up, and it looks like it is coming back up. And if I go to my trade, I am not in the positive yet on Ethereum, but that's because there's such a large spread on Ethereum. You know, sometimes it takes a minute, so you kind of have to use that judgment whenever you're going to be doing MetaTrader 4 trades. You have to take the spread into consideration, because crypto has the highest spreads. It's so you got to be confident about, you know, where this price action is going to be going, you know, before you make the trade, in hopes that it's going to be going in the right direction. So I think we're going in the right direction, and what I think is that we're going to be pushing this high, right, or these equal highs, right, which also happen to line up with this kind of almost like a little gap there, right? So it could be getting up into here, filling in that gap, right? And then it may pull down a little bit, and depending on what the price action is on the way up, maybe filling in some more gaps before it goes back forward. So like I said, I'm never worried about a little bit of a pullback, you know, depending on how the situation is, you know, before it goes back forward. You know, there was like about a month or so ago, Sundays were the days when crypto would absolutely fall. And it's not been like that recently. Instead, it's been kind of neutral, if not better. And then the days it'll fall will be a little bit later. So it almost seems like it's picked up on a cycle, but it changes every so often. So that is the Ethereum that I got for you. Another one I wanted to show you was Mana. Man, this you can get this on Coinbase. And I should have held out just a little bit longer, instead what I did is I transferred everything over to Bitcoin, and then transferred that over to my MetaTrader 4 account, because I bought this in at 20 cents, and I was like, well, what else am I going to use Mana for, you know? I could have let two things I could have done is I could have let it continue build my portfolio, but in my eyes I said, you know what I could do is I could make more trades that I'm doing, since I have a little bit more capital, and not be afraid to, you know, have a little bit more of a stop loss, and then I can take that money that I made from that, transfer it back, you know, and put more in altcoins, things of that nature. So so Mana doing really good. Litecoin, this is another one I wanted to check out because I think this one got down into that kind of breakerish area too that I was talking about. Let me see here. As you can see, I've drawn out like some of these areas. Here I am on the 15-minute. Yeah, see, this didn't do exactly what I thought it was going to do. Well, it kind of did, because you have a low, a high, and then a lower low. So you do kind of have a breaker aspect here. I'm going to show you where that breaker aspect is. And it's not there. It's the last candle up. All right, so it has completely gone. Well, it did get to the bottom of it, right, before it decided to, boom, go back up. And then it traded down through here. So, but you can see this breaker definitely had positive impact